I know I take a lot of camera. I get it.
Is that better? You feel better about that?
I feel a little better. I mean, you know, I might be able to fit on there.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. So you got the sound on.
Sound is a
battery's good.
The battery's good.
It's already running.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have legs.
Maybe we ought to start making that other show a half hour so that I don't have to spend more than an hour with you. An hour is that's about a limit.
Yeah, I know.
That's a hard limit. It's a hard limit. All right. So we're ready to roll?
I think we're ready to.
And you had a juicy, funny story to talk about?
I like fun juice. I don't. The juicy story. We went from anecdotes to juicy stories.
You didn't have an anecdote. So that maybe you had a juicy story.
No, unfortunately, I do not have a juicy story instead of an anecdote either.
Okay, well, you gotta lie, you can tell us.
I guess I could make some of those up. Come watch New Mutants next weekend. It'll be awesome. Sorry.
What is that game they play? Two Truths and a Lie or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you don't have that either.
No.
We're just going to get going so that...
We do have, just say, new movies are starting to come back out. That's not necessarily an anecdote, but anybody that's a big movie lover, new movies are finally starting to slowly release into theaters. Nothing major yet, but it looks like if you like watching new movies, you're going to be able to this year.
New Mutants is a Marvel property. There was a comic book called New Mutants,
yes,
and the movie has nothing to do with it.
Well,
same characters. Sorry.
I don't know this movie.
It's a thriller. It's a horror.
Right. But New Mutants was always a little bit darker than the other stuff. But still, this movie has been in production hell for years. I'm not very it was finished being made a couple years ago, and then the Disney buyout of Fox, and it got lost, and then the pandemic pushing it back. Like the fact that this movie's even coming out is kind of a miracle. So I don't expect it to be good, but the fact it's actually going to finally see theaters is kind of... I thought it was going to end up like the old Fantastic Four movie and just shelved in a way because of all the things that had happened. So
I suppose that's an anecdote. It ain't funny. I suppose it's a story. It's not juicy. But we're done with the opening. Please start here. Does Jumpstart actually exist? Oh, by the way, this is Reblogatog.
Quarter century.
For the two of you who are watching.
Hey, we're on episode quarter century.
Quarter century, episode 25. Mark Rosewater, head designer for Magic the Gathering, has a thing called Blogatog.
It's his Tumblr account, answers questions.
We regurgitate it, blah, blah.
We give you the best of the best of the best with honors.
Blah, blah. Hey! Does Jumpstart actually exist? Here's what's going on. Jumpstart is a new innovative product, has more complicated printing requirements than an average set.
Now that makes sense.
As such, it limits where we're able to print it. Combine that with the complications of COVID and a very enthusiastic reception.
Yes.
And it's made the product harder to acquire than we originally planned.
Yeah, thanks.
Jumpstart is not a limited print run, though, meaning we will reprint to match demand. This is a long-winded way of saying there's more on its way, but it might take some time.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you that the first wave that we should have got cut in half. Yeah. I, here in Southwest Missouri, am getting the second half of my original order tomorrow.
Yes.
I don't know about the rest of the world. I don't even know about a state over. But I am getting the rest of my original order tomorrow. That's of the original order.
The original order.
They have triggered a reprint that is coming down the pipeline, which may be here probably not next month, but maybe next year. I don't know when it's coming in.
Christmas? I don't know.
There's more coming.
Yes.
Wait for it. It's coming. It's worth it. It's fun.
It'll be good.
Hey, Mayro, just read your State of Design article. Did you guys read it?
It was good.
It's pretty good. And wanted to let you know my, and I think a lot of other people's too, favorite part of Jumpstart was actually all the niche new legends that support crazy new gimmicks in Commander without being marked dud rares for people cracking standard packs or taking up valuable rare slots in standard sets. Vel's Fight Fixer has already become one of my favorite commanders. He says, good to know. It did do that. It gave a place to put, there's a devil commander in there. There's a unicorn commander.
We talked some about getting upset about all these new legendary creatures they're making and inundating too many commanders out there. But Jumpstart, the commanders they made in Jumpstart are exactly the kind of thing I want to see them make more of.
I do. Support those tribes that haven't gotten support before.
Little niche strategies that people want to play.
Let's do those.
Stuff like that. That's awesome to make stuff
We don't need another thing that does +1/+1s or draws cards.
No.
I mean, quit doing the same things over and over. We don't need another thing with zombies. We don't need another thing with it. So,
but it was cool to see the niche stuff being made.
All right. Is Kicker a simple enough mechanic with sufficient design space to be evergreen?
I really liked this answer and had never thought of it this way.
Ironically, it has too much design space to be evergreen.
Yeah.
We want to be able to chop pieces of it off to make new, focused, flavored mechanics.
They've said, I've heard Mero say in the past that pretty much almost every mechanic is some form of
version of Kicker.
That's it.
Pay a little extra, get something else.
That's essentially.
I wanted to bring up that we're not going to go over spoilers here today, but we have some spoilers for Zendikar Rising that came out.
Yes.
And Kicker got used in a brand new place.
Yeah.
Just like he's talking about. On the new Jace. A Planeswalker
with Kicker.
Has Kicker. Again, we're not covering that here, but it has too much design space. Yeah. They used it on a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see it on a land now.
Last week we talked about...
I want Kicker on a land. I want Kicker on a land. Not just the pay one or sacrifice it thing. I want Kicker on a land.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting.
If we can put it on Planeswalker, we can put it on land.
Last week we talked about putting cycling on Planeswalkers, and all of a sudden this week they're putting Kicker on them, so does cycling seem that far off?
Kicker 2! He can say cycling 2. Why not?
Does cycling seem that far off anymore?
Same thing. All right. Due to the success of Mutate, a highly complex but very flavorful mechanic,
yes,
improve the chances of Suspend to be reprinted in a premier set? If so, where would it fall now on the Storm scale? Being complicated was only half of Suspend's issues. The other half was it wasn't particularly popular.
Fair.
Trading mana for time was a bit esoteric for most players at the time.
I tell you, a lot of those Suspend cards are kind of feel bads at times. I'll just be honest with you. Like they finally did print a Mox, and I'm not sure if it's any good with Mox Tantalite, because you're like, oh, it doesn't cost anything, and in 3 turns I can get a color of any color mana out of it.
Should have been 2.
2 is better. Yeah, at 3 turns it just
LED
feels...
is 3, right? Or not LED. Lotus. What's the Lotus Suspend Lotus?
Bloss, Veil.
Yeah. Never mind. I should never think of things right off the top of my head.
There's a lot of Lotus this and that.
The Lotus suspends for 3, so the Mox is suspended for 2.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. It just should.
It just doesn't feel... Oh, man, suspending it... Yeah. Hi, Mark. Do you regret anything in terms of creating mechanics? Or is it more like a learning experience for you if the mechanic fails flops? And oops. Better not do that again. But glad that you did it anyway, and you still have no regrets. I get frustrated more when I repeat a mistake than when I do it for the first time. I do think of the first time as a learning experience. As I like to say, I think the biggest risk in Magic design is not taking risk.
I agree with that.
I do. And
that's actually a lesson for life.
It is.
Making a mistake isn't bad. It's when you keep making that same mistake over and over.
Yeah.
And you don't learn. What is that? The who was it? Einstein or said definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over and
expecting different results.
A different result.
Yeah. I don't remember who that quote is attributed to, but the definition of an insanity is...
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Renown hasn't been used again, and I love the design space of creatures becoming more powerful once they connect. Same goes for Spell Mastery, especially with that Chandra Shock that would turn into a Bolt and the 3-mana burn spell that got uncounterable. Were those mechanics badly received, or there simply hasn't come the time for them? Okay, oddly worded there at the end. Both mechanics were received well enough to return one day. I think they're both fine mechanics.
I didn't like Renown, and And I had to go look at them today because I don't always do this, but I went and looked at them and was like, I think my problem was they put them on cheap creatures, which maybe was trying to get people to use them, but then they had to connect before they did something that was worth an extra mana, but I don't think it was worth the extra mana and the extra turn
Right.
that it took to get them. Some of them were okay, but like the Mana Dork was a 1 green, but you had to attack with it, so you had to cast it.
Right.
You had to wait a turn and attack with it. It's tapped. And then on turn 3, now you get a mana out of it. I'd have kind of liked to seen it on bigger stuff.
Right.
And it wasn't on a lot of big stuff.
No, it wasn't.
Put it on bigger stuff that gets really cool stuff once it hits.
Right.
That I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah. And Spell Mastery, I think, was a good mechanic.
I enjoyed Spell Mastery.
Yeah.
I thought it was very flavorful and it worked really well.
Yeah. Especially the 2 spells he mentions right there, too, the Chandra Shock and that other burn spell, they really amp up in cool ways, I think. So, you want to take us on this colorless extravaganza?
It's not an extravaganza. There's nothing that goes super deep this week. Mark, can we get more colorless cards that you pay with colorless instead of generic? Maybe that would help not to have very absurd colorless cards without a defect. Cards with colorless mana cost require a decent amount of support. You can't just toss them into a set.
No. He's right about this.
Just because there's a couple of lands, usually not commons,
Right.
that can make colorless in about every set they come out with, you can't just throw colorless cards
Right.
in there. It takes amount of support for them to work. Cards with colorless mana costs require a decent amount of support. You can't just toss them into sets. Couldn't you just make Waste evergreen?
Yeah.
Just putting Waste in every set, as an example, is a real cost.
Yeah.
Now all worlds have to creatively make sense of Waste.
Yep.
Many people who open them will be unhappy because most decks don't need it and they'd rather have an in-world basic land. It's a bigger ask than many think.
I honestly think the second half of that doesn't mean much. The being in the packs, the basic land in the packs, I'll be honest, I don't think a lot of newer players maybe, I don't think that, but the first part, thematically trying to fit it to worlds and things like that, is a lot more work. And then if you're going to have Waste, then you have to have colorless mana symbols in every set, or else it feels like, why do we even have Waste?
Why do you have them? Yeah.
And it feels like too much to do, I feel like.
I don't know, but I mean, Waste is kind of like a desert, so couldn't every plane have someplace that's like a desert?
You know, actually, what I was thinking, it almost feels like to me, like every plane that we return to, you could put Waste on, because at some point, WotC destroyed that plane when we were there before.
Not Throne of Eldraine.
Oh, not Eldraine. They haven't.
Eldraine was very mild.
That's true. Well,
It was a nice change-up.
most all planes, they've done some cataclysmic things too, so you could probably thematically put some Waste when you go back. But let me go ahead here.
Yep.
I didn't get around to asking on my actual birthday, so I hope it's still okay, a bit belated. Could I ask where my favorite character... There's always one. There's always one. My favorite character, Nicol Bolas, is on the venture scale. I'm hoping to have him back soon. Yeah, like I said, there's always got to be one, doesn't there?
Yeah, so where's he at?
I doubt we've seen the last of Nicol Bolas, but I wouldn't expect him back anytime soon.
I want 5 years.
We didn't.
If I don't get 5 years, I'm going to write a letter.
Right, we didn't get a number, but yeah. That'd be 4 years from now if they do it like Planes. It's been a year since we've seen him. If they go 5 years like they do between Planes, we got another 4 years, no Bolas.
I want at least that.
I'm good with that. I really am.
I'm so tired of Bolas.
How likely is Flashback to return based on the Storm scale? This is an awesome answer. It's a 3. We haven't seen Flashback in a little while, but...
Just another kicker.
It is just another kicker, but... I like Flashback. I liked it wasn't necessarily Flashback, but I loved in Amonkhet when we had Aftermath, where it was a different spell out of the graveyard, which is a Flashback-like effect. Can I do a few here? Because I kind of want to do these, too.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Save me that one, then.
Okay. Aren't gelatinous cubes white oozes? They keep the dungeon neat and tidy, so they promote order in some sense? I love this question, I just have to say.
Love the answer.
Yeah. Eating everything you come in touch with isn't keeping things tidy or promoting order. Fair answer, Marrow. In nanotechnology, speculative fiction, there's the concept of a gray goo apocalypse, wherein nanomachines are programmed to break down matter and make more of themselves, eventually carpeting the world in a sea of nanobots. It seems like this could be a white concept for oozes, an ooze that enforces order on its surroundings by replicating itself. That sounds in order: blue, then green, then black, then red, and lastly white.
It's least white.
It is least white. I would have to agree with that. Those are probably the best mile I had on Reblogatog this week, was reading those right there.
Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
So I did this one. I don't do a lot of unstuff because
Yeah.
I just don't. But unrules question. This isn't covered in the unsanctioned FAQ. I checked. If your opponent plays Ring a Bell, am I right in thinking that there's nothing to stop you ringing the bell constantly? It was very annoying for him, but he still won. Yes, there's something stopping you. It's highly unsportsmanlike and rude. You would be kicked out of an in-store tournament for doing that, for example. As a general rule, the answer to, can I do this thing that would be highly annoying and bothersome to my fellow players, is no. Winning is not the end goal of a more casual Magic game, such as Unsanctioned. It's having a good time playing Magic with others.
Yeah.
That translates really well to Commander.
Yes.
In my opinion, it translates really well to Commander. Hey, is it okay if I take the next 14 turns? Y'all will still get to play when I'm done, but I'm just going to play Magic here by myself for a while.
Yeah.
No, not okay. Hey, I'm going to blow up everybody's land, and no, I'm not going to kill you. We're just going to sit here for a half hour, an hour, trying to draw lands and play our spells. Is that okay? No. So, there are certain things not okay to do.
He could have shortened this a lot by just saying, yes, there's something stopping you. You might get punched. Just if you keep ringing that bell, I might just have a nervous tick that occurs.
I want y'all to remember this one. Hi, Mark. I am 6 months and 4,196 pages into reading your blog from the beginning and working back to the present day.
Wow.
Wow is right. Wow. I believe somebody posted the other day he was up to over 7,000 or something.
Yeah, so this guy's more than halfway through.
What an incredible archive of the game's history. Some of my favorite parts have been how often you subtly foreshadowed upcoming changes or new things without anyone ever catching on. Something that can only be picked up on by reading back far enough in the past.
Oh, yeah.
He says, I hint at the future way, way more than people think. Alan, you want to take the next one?
Yeah. I know he does, too. I mean, I haven't been reading Reblogatog as long as Dad has here to actually start.
I didn't reread the whole thing, but I've been reading it for a few years.
You've been reading it for a few years, so you're at the point where you can start catching the trends of...
Yeah, he does hint at stuff, yes.
Hi, Mark. I would like to strongly express that I do not think green should be able to fight target creatures, or at least be able to do so for an on-curve rate. I think this is a color pie break, and I think takes away too much of green's biggest weakness. Green's major weakness is its over-reliance on creatures. Only being able to kill a creature, if you have a creature, big enough to fight it, is exactly that. This carries on to...
And follow it up one more time.
Yeah. Thank you for responding, Morrow. What I mean is that I don't think being over-reliant on creatures is as much of a weakness as you might think. Especially with fight effects. And especially in best-of-one formats for green. I feel it ends up being an effect with a cost, but not enough of a cost.
Do you get the feeling that he's lost a bunch of
a lot of games.
best-of-ones on Arena to fight?
Yeah.
I'm just speculating.
I have a feeling so. And Marrow nails this, just dead on here. That's the power level of fight is too high argument. Not a fight shouldn't be in green's color pie argument. I absolutely agree with that. And we've had this discussion. Monroe's had this discussion a lot.
Yeah, we won't dig deep there.
Right.
But I thought it made a nice point. So we shared that.
It is not a color pie discussion. It's you don't like the mechanic. The mechanic fits in green's color pie. Is the mechanic too strong? Mayro, if Jumpstart performs well enough, and assuming unsets also perform well, could we theoretically see a silver-bordered Jumpstart set?
Oh, I got 2 questions in here.
The problem is Jumpstart requires a huge amount of cards in specific themes to work, and there just aren't enough silver-bordered cards, let alone themes to group them in.
Later
Sadly.
on, and I don't think
I don't remember.
I don't think I shared it, but
I don't think so.
He says that dice rolling might have big enough theme that it could make one.
Ooh.
But that's just one thing.
That's just one thing.
Because somebody was wanting them to combine silver and black border together, and it's like...
it's going to get complicated then.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Are there cards you would never print today that you're still glad exist within the game's history? Well, I don't think that any format other than Vintage should use the Power 9. I do think that their existence was part of what helped Magic initially take off. I think he's exactly right. People seeing those super powerful cards. And once they realized that they were powerful cards, it really made a big difference. And right here, we just discussed this over in our Chatter of the Squirrels episode.
Yeah, so go check that out, because we're not going to discuss it here. It just got spoiled just a little bit before we went live.
Just a little bit before we went live. Are we going to get a Zendikar Rising teaser? Because he's done those for the last few sets, and he says, you are. It's already written.
Well, it got spoiled earlier, his list. We went over it, so we're going to send you over...
to Chatter of the Squirrel.
I'll be posting that up tomorrow afternoon.
Yep.
And you can check it out there. And probably next week it'll appear. He'll put the list on this, because I cut it off last night.
Right.
And he probably shared it today after it got spoiled.
And we'll go over it
next week. But we did our hot take on it. Next week we'll have a more in-depth look at it, hopefully.
I may do a little research, actually.
Yeah, we didn't have time to do research. It's literally right before we went live. Alan goes, hey, did you know he put the teaser out? No. So we read it and then went live. And it's okay, so we did a hot take. Hypothetically speaking, if printing wasn't an issue, do you think double-face cards would become evergreen?
Oh, man, yeah.
If printing and logistical issues weren't a thing, I think we'd be tempted.
I know my arrow would.
Almost every set has something that could be executed as a double-faced card.
Yeah. Just that transformation is just so cool to show certain things.
How does Alina, Kessig Trapper, fit in the color pie? Her mana ability seems very green. So if you've seen the spoilers for Commander Legends,
right?
This is a new legend with partner that got spoiled, and it's a red card, a red and 4 for a 4/3 with first strike that you tapped at amount of red mana to your mana pool equal to the power. Was it the power?
I believe it was the power of
or the converted mana cost. I don't remember now.
Of target creature you played.
That enters the battlefield this turn, I think it was.
Yeah, under your control, not play. They don't use those words anymore.
It's a bend, but red is secondary in mana production. You know, I always thought mana production, and maybe I'm misremembering, for red was supposed to be a temporary, a one-shot kind of thing. Or kind of like blue when it gets it to do activations or cast artifacts. I thought red only got it, Chandra's... there was a Chandra card that let you cast an elemental or a Chandra card.
Right, and we've seen only being able to use it for instants or sorceries. We've seen something like that.
There's no restrictions on what you can use it for this. So, I know it's probably just a ban, but it feels closer to a break.
It does, but I'm okay with it.
I'm not going to disagree with the man who's designing them, but it feels like a big bend.
I'm okay with it, I guess, maybe mostly because it's in red.
It's like an English bend. It's a big bend. All right, so moving along, Planeswalkers are pretty controversial, and some players absolutely loathe their gameplay, while for others, they are the best part of the game. If you were to go back and redesign them, What would you do differently? Well, nothing, but listen to what he says. You're comparing apples and oranges. Those unhappy with Planeswalkers are a small minority, all but pretty enfranchised.
Yeah.
Overall, Planeswalkers are very popular with the vast majority of players. Our research says most players want more of them, not less. I'm actually very happy with their design as a card type.
Right.
I
don't like some of the...
I think we get too many of them personally, but I don't have a problem with their design.
Right.
I just think we have too many in general. I think 3 a set is too many.
Right.
I think
that's
I just
fair.
think it's too many.
I think War of the Spark... I think 3 a set may not be too many. I think War of the Spark still has us all just in Planeswalker fatigue. Is a lot of it, too. We're still just inundated with Planeswalkers everywhere from War of the Spark.
Pardon me.
But I wish they would be more value engine-y, most of them, than take over the game cards. That's what I don't... That's the Planeswalkers I really don't like, that come in and take over a game. Like the new Jace, that I know we're not talking spoilers, but I like him because he's just a value engine. He can be killed. He's not going to win you a game, but he's just good value. That's okay on a Planeswalker. I don't want to see something that just takes over a game like the Okos that have to be banned, you know?
I can't disagree with any of that.
You know?
Can I have a birthday trivia on goats? I think I knew this, but
I
maybe
didn't
just
know
forgot
this.
it. Atog is an anagram of goat because, like goats, it ate objects. Happy
That's cool.
birthday.
I didn't know that. That's actually
Atog's
really cool.
8 artifacts. The original Atog, 8 artifacts. That's an object. That's a thing
Yeah.
in Magic World.
Yeah.
And so it's an anagram.
They printed, there's about a dozen Atogs or something in existence, and they all eat something different.
Right.
The 5 color eating other Atogs. So
This is something I hadn't seen asked, and
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a lot of reference to it. Do you know who is currently the lowest rated Planeswalker among players? I mean, a lot of times they're asking, is Jace still the most popular? And he said that Jace and Chandra are like neck and neck.
Yeah, it's hard to decide, really.
So, and a lot of people would have probably jumped to T-Balt
yeah.
here, but I think he's beloved at this point.
Yeah. Hey, just meme-tastic.
So the last Mayro I remember seeing it was Dovin. Dovin is the lowest currently rated.
That's fair. Dovin just doesn't really inspire much of anything from anyone, does he?
Apparently not.
It's Azorius, and no one really likes Azorius. No one wants... If you had to pick a guild in Ravnica, you don't want to, hang out with the Azorius, you know? Hi, Mark.
Always knowing everything and wanting you to behave.
Hi, Mark. What percentage of player-based drafts as their primary method of play?
Interesting.
It's tricky to answer because we can only measure what we measure. Set boosters came about because we had a deep dive data. Data that seeks out people, not going to a source where people come to us. And that said that a majority of Magic players don't use their booster packs for any kind of limited play.
Hence we got set boosters.
Like I said, I think they're a great idea, and I thought that's kind of what we were going to get when they announced collector boosters instead of the $25 weird collector boosters we got. I thought we were going to get something that was more like a set booster. I know it's been a while, but I can't help but miss the old State of Design articles, the old style State of Design articles. They were by far my favorite, but without some portion to look forward at where we're going, it's just become a post-mortem rather than a State of the Union style thing. I understand you changed it based on feedback, but can we at least get a sense of how we're going to see the lessons of last year applied to the coming one? It's a good question. I didn't even notice in the new one that...
but the answer's really good, too.
The complaint was I was setting lessons for work already completed, and it felt unfulfilling for a lot of readers.
So they're working 2 years ahead. So when he writes a State of Design article, in the past he would say, here's our goals for next year, what we want to do. Well, with feedback, he quit doing that. There's not any goals in the new State of Design articles because those things are already done. So it feels a little disingenuous to be setting goals for things that you've already done.
Yeah. That's a good point.
That seems fair to me. Howdy, Mark. How likely are we to get another Asian-inspired plane? It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to remember the one I told you earlier to remember. Do you remember what I told you to remember earlier?
Man, I guess I don't now.
Where the guy who was reading through all the pages from the beginning said that he a lot of time gave things away when you went back and read it. I believe this is one such time, and I'm pointing it out here. I believe it is because mostly in these situations, his answer is, I never say never. Almost without fail, when there's a situation, a question like this, he says, I never say never. And in this, he says, it's just a matter of time. Therefore, I believe there's an Asian plane coming in 2 years. I think it's in the 2-year window, not the 5-year plan, which actually goes to 7 nowadays, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's in the next 2 years we're getting an Asian-inspired plane. You heard it here first.
A new one.
A new one. Because Kamigawa has a lot of problems.
Right, we're not going back there.
Not going back there.
Tarkir is our only other Asian-inspired plane.
I think we're getting another one. That's why I wanted to call it out.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what's happening. Me. I'm on record.
Okay. This one makes me smile as well. Hi. I was wondering how likely it would be for us to get a snow planeswalker, assuming it makes sense with the set and plane. Mayro's response, like Frosty?
Frosty?
I now want a snowman planeswalker so bad.
Frosty the Snowman, baby.
That makes me just...
As a planeswalker, I'm down.
That'd be awesome. But a snow planeswalker would be cool. Actually, it'd be different. It'd be in the planeswalker territory. Is there any positive CMC at which you could print an artifact that taps for as much mana as it cost? Sure. Mox Lotus from Unhinged does it 15, and it taps for way more than its converted mana cost.
Infinite.
Yes.
15 mana taps for infinite. Yeah. Right there.
There you go, guys.
Done. Ever since the companion errata, companions have stopped showing up completely. Why didn't you ban them in competitive play rather than ruin the mechanic for everyone? I take issues with this one. They were causing problems in places other than tournaments. I'd like to know where that was. Have you got any suggestions of places other than tournaments that companions were causing a problem?
I'm going to guess they heard something about Commander is what made them do it. It's going to be my guess, but I don't...
Were there problems in Commander? There were 2 we couldn't use, but outside of that, I don't even think I got a chance to play one in the Commander deck. They were nerfed so... I mean, I don't change my decks that often, but how were they...
And from what I hear...
What was the problem?
From what I hear, there are a couple of them that are still getting played in formats, and even older formats, I think. A couple of them, Yorion, I think. Some of them 80-card Yorion decks are still getting played in some places, and control piles are. So...
I don't know. I just don't know where they were causing problems at. I wish you'd went deep on that one. Would Soul Ring work as a green card? Like, have it cost green instead of 1 generic? If Alpha had colored artifacts, which we're starting to get today because artifacts are pretty out there.
We've had them for a lot of years, but they're starting to get a lot more of them now.
Soul Ring could have been green with a different creative concept, so it wouldn't have been Soul Ring. It'd have been
right. Who knows? I got
fancy plan. I don't know.
It would have been a fancy plan, yes.
What would it be? I mean...
I'm not sure, thinking, but...
the Lotus sacked for 3, so why not fancy plan? What's a fancy plan? I don't know. Take the next one. I want the last 2.
Mark, may I request more body type diversity among planeswalkers? You guys have made great efforts in representing different races and sexualities lately, but it's a little tiring to see characters, especially the women, have more or less the exact same body type over and over. Thanks in advance. He says I'll pass along the note. I've heard this...
I think the dudes, too. I mean...
Yeah. So
there's nobody representing my body type. Unless
Right.
it's a troll or something, you know.
And to make it worse, I mean, and don't do the Arlen Cord thing you did. That kind of bugs me a little bit too. They took Arlen Cord was a middle-aged woman, and then War of the Spark. She's very young and vibrant looking again. One of our only middle-aged planeswalker originally, and they made her much younger looking. And
well, Radha, they actually did the other way. They actually showed her becoming middle-aged, and she was bigger.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, the War of the Spark, Arlen Cord versus Innistrad, she looks much younger all of a sudden instead of a middle-aged woman. And some people really like that because you don't see middle-aged women in
Maybe
Magic
she
Card
had
often.
some of that fancy plan.
That could be.
This is my new thing. Watsy, Mayro, make a fancy plan. Even if it's an uncard, I need a fancy plan. I need justification. I need a fancy plan. I think that Baron Sangir having partner is a big flavor fail, and it's disappointing for everyone who wanted to play an iconic villain. I hope we won't get other villains with partner, especially the old Phyrexians. Villains do partner up, you know. Yes, they do.
Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom.
So maybe if we don't have Nicol Bolas for a few years and we got the Phyrexians and have them for a while, because I think that's got to be coming.
It's got to be.
Maybe somebody from the Phyrexians will team up with Nicol Bolas or something. I don't know.
Oh, God.
I
They
don't
should
know.
resurrect Yawgmoth somehow. Bring back another old...
Possibly. And I thought it's only fair we ended with this one. This is where it works out, and I'm a good person to ask this.
Yeah.
I've been on both sides of this fence as well. Do you agree or disagree with the idea WotC has unfairly favored blue throughout Magic's history? If you take away the early years of Magic, I don't think we have, says Mero. Mostly, I'm going to agree with that.
He is mostly correct.
Mostly correct.
The early years of Magic skew the thinking of blue very hard.
And I'm probably unfair when I see them give blue something and I don't realize how much they've given green.
Right. Green.
Or they've given other colors in
Right.
general. Black's gotten a lot over the years as well. White's starting to catch up. Red, I believe, is now falling behind.
It is. And I like green. I play green, but green and blue, both, we've all talked about it. They got just way too pushed for 2 years of standard now.
Simic is bonkers good in
and green
pretty much any format you want to play.
Green specifically, because a lot of the cards that were so bonkers that were in that deck that weren't gold were mono green. They really have pushed green, and they've made it very good. And I believe you're correct. They've let red fall by the wayside while doing it.
Red is they did give red the spontaneous draw.
Spontaneous draw, I believe that's the right term. Yeah. But
and that helped, but it's still a little bit of bad burn. Nowadays, it's bad burn.
The fact that they've made burn bad, is burn apparently a feel bad? Is that what it is for somebody to get burned out in Magic?
I don't know.
Because it doesn't feel like a counterspell to me. But I mean, they're not printing good burn. And usually, if they don't print something, because it's a feel bad.
Yeah,
and they don't want the new players to.
Well, the problem is, what do we consider good? I mean, lightning bolt's too strong.
Lightning bolt's too strong, I get that.
But they don't even give us shock that often.
No, they don't give us shock that often.
Lightning strike, we haven't seen that much in the last few years either.
No, we had it back. Ixalan, I think we had it in Ixalan, and that was the last printing.
We didn't even get it back with Theros, and you would have thought,
Lightning,
got that.
yeah, it would make sense there. We had Lightning Strike with Dominaria, which was a conditional Lightning Bolt, but other than that, and a lot of the burn they do print... Wizard Lightning, sorry. A lot of the burn they are printing is specifically just at creatures or planeswalkers. They're not letting you burn players very often anymore. And it's just one of the classic things Red does that they seem to have taken away from. So
it seems like I don't know. I'm not sure what they need to do in Red, but I do think Red is starting to fall behind.
Yeah.
I even before they started working on White, I would much rather play most mono White Commander decks than a mono Red.
White's got a lot of answers.
A lot of answers.
You can
maybe it's because my mono White's Heliod and he's pretty good.
Right.
It's an enchantment based, so. Anyway, I believe we come to the end of all our stuffs.
Yeah.
We hope you guys have enjoyed it. If not, I guess we won't see you next week. If you have, please come back and watch us again. And check out
Chatter the Squirrels.
Chatter the Squirrels, number 80, which I'll be posting up, should be tomorrow afternoon, barring any unforeseen circumstances.
Like I said, you can hear our hot takes on those Zendikar teasers.
Yep.
We got a few of those, so...
We got a few. I don't know how good they are. And for next week, we'll try to work up something special for you.
I'm going to do a little bit of research on a couple of those.
Now, some of them got me wondering.
So, guys, thanks so much for coming out with us tonight, and we will see you again next time.